Hello there! This is gonna be a quick video because recently, while I was scrolling through my Steam library, thanks to the new fancy interface with hottakes and all, I have stumbled on the news that Besiege has just received 64-bit support, and after checking it out for a while, I wanted to share my thoughts because I have found in there much more than what I was expecting to find. First and foremost, I would like to send out a thank you to everyone in Spiderlink Studios. Many early access games cannot make their way into the version promised, but Besiege is one of the remaining few that manages to meet and even go beyond expectations. So, having paid my respects, now I'd like to proceed with my reflections on the up-to-date version of the game, but before that, if you haven't heard of the title before, let me quickly introduce you to Besiege. Definition-wise, it's a physics-based sandbox game, in which you can build your own siege engines. According to my Steam purchase history, it has been almost 7 years since the day I added it to my library, so I can safely say that the game has been around for more than 7 years. And according to the information on the Steam store page, it came out of early access in 2020, which means that I am 2 years late for reflecting on the full release, but you know, better late than never. Due to the reason that it has been a long time since I experienced the game in its early stages, my memories of those times are not fresh. But I think I remember just enough to reason the leftover feelings I have. In my view, back in the day, Besiege had two main problems. Namely, the initial steepness of the learning curve, and the lack of the necessary content that would motivate the player towards investing time and effort in the game. While the former still persists in some sense, the latter is fixed, and I am just glad that it is so. Unfortunately, even in the present day, Besiege is not one of those games that hold your hand until the point at which you feel comfortable with most of the basic stuff and are ready to experiment further on your own. And as you may have guessed, the case was not different during the initial stages of the early access period. Let alone accomplishing the tasks, it was such a frustrating experience to get to understand even the basics of the game, as there are many different tools at players' disposal. To be honest, even though there is somewhat of a tutorial in the current version of the game, the limits of its reach is utterly disappointing. If you ask me, I do not think that it even covers the basics. It just instructs you on how to create a four-wheeled steerable cart, and in a snap, you shift from freshman to graduate without even understanding what your major was. Nevertheless, now this is not as big as an issue as it was in the past, thanks to the community on Steam who have filled the workshop full of guides and walkthroughs. Today, whenever you feel that you are stuck in a level or clueless about how to utilize a certain tool, you have the opportunity to take a trip down in the workshop and find a cure for your ailment, either written in text or in visual format. By the way, having mentioned the workshop, I should inform you that the content you can find there is not limited to instructive material. If you are one to enjoy analyzing and experimenting with others' work, there are blueprints of siege engines made by other players, which you can download and import into your game. There you can even find mods that alter the core mechanics of the game and extend the scope of what you can do with tools at your disposal. Anyway, coming back to the main subject. In short, it's not that much of a problem today to deal with the initial steepness of the learning curve, thanks to the material you can find in the Steam workshop. Before moving on with my reflections on the changes in the extent of the campaign content, I would like to say a couple more words about receiving help from guides and walkthroughs in the Steam workshop. I believe that most of the fun you receive through playing Besiege arises from experimenting with the tools under your hand until you come up with the right siege engine that suits the necessities of the level you are trying to pass. Even though it might be frustrating at the beginning due to your unfamiliarity with the gadgets, as you continue playing and become more and more comfortable with the tools you have, the frustrating struggle turns into a fun challenge of creativity. So, even though I suggest getting help from the workshop when the necessity arises, or in other words, when you're on the brink of putting the game back on the shelf, I would advise against turning this into a habit and resorting to the solutions you can find on the workshop immediately at the moment the level strikes you as challenging. The struggle you go through on the path of solving the problem is what makes this game so much fun. Therefore, I urge you to have some patience and trust your wits. Believe me, you will enjoy the satisfaction of conquering a zone only by utilizing the products of your own imagination. Now getting back on the main subject, as I have stated before, the second problem was the lack of content. Unfortunately, at the time when I first had my hands on Besiege, the campaign mode was extremely weak. Out of the 4 isles we have today, only one of them, Ypsilon, was served as playable. The remaining 3, Tolbrand, Wolfrost and Krolmar were all locked and inaccessible. If my memory is not at fault, it has been like this for a long time, and I suppose this is the reason why the full version of the game caught me off guard and quickly gained my admiration. In my view, the campaign mode has the potential to be the most resourceful driving force for the player in any single player video game. Think of God of War, for instance. It has amazingly fun combat mechanics. Even simply throwing the axe around generates joy in the player. Nevertheless, for a second, presume that it did not have a campaign mode and there only were an arena in which you could hit and destroy inanimate dummies. How long do you think swinging that fancy axe around would keep being fun? I assert that you'd get bored before you even fully understood all the skill and actions that you have at your disposal. Besiege, while it was still in early access, had been suffering from the exact same problem we have just imaginatively explored. It had fun mechanics to tinker with, if you are patient enough, but it lacked the content that would motivate you towards doing so. In other words, it was leaving the player in a vast open sandbox devoid of purpose. I think that this is the main reason why I never spent much time playing Besiege throughout the last 7 years. Up until the day I found out that it came out of early access and has all 4 isles unlocked and playable. Before concluding the video by tidying up my views in general, I'd like to briefly talk about the remaining content of the game for the sake of providing you with a full perspective. In addition to the campaign mode, you have 3 other options in which you can explore the reaches of your intellect. These are namely the multiverse, level editor, and sandboxes. Except the multiverse, I believe that the names are pretty much self-explanatory. Through the level editor, you can create your own challenges and share them with others, and in sandboxes, you can try out new Siege engine ideas without being restricted with limits. Different from these, the multiverse offers you both in the same package bundled with online features. I haven't experimented with it a lot, but as far as I understand, it enables you to collectively work on custom level designs and play within them. Having that remaining part covered, now I can sum up my views and we can wave our goodbyes. Overall, I think that Besiege has come a long way throughout its still ongoing journey. 7 years ago, we had a sandbox with potential. Today, we have a full game equipped with the necessary tools and game modes to keep the player entertained for a fair amount of time. Besides, simultaneously with the development of the game, its community on Steam has also grown a great deal. Now you have access not only to the full version of the game, but also to the extras generated by the community. In short, if you have Besiege in your library and you have not given it much attention yet, now might be a great time to do so. If you don't have it, it might be worthwhile to check it out. That's all from me today. Thanks for watching and I hope I see you in the next video. Have a good day and do not forget to like and subscribe. See ya.